Hey guys! Mario Kart World has been out for over a month now and has managed to pull me out of the YouTube purgatory. I thought it'd be fun to rank all the new tracks and share my thoughts. This is going to be considering the tracks in versus mode, just the classic 3-lap versions. This means that we're not going to be individually talking about the other versions of Peach Stadium and Crown City, just their versus versions. Without further ado, let's get into the ranking. We're starting off with the D tier, not the F tier, because the quality of tracks here is so high that I don't think any of them deserve to be put in such a low tier. There's no tracks in this game that I outright hate, just a few that I don't really like. And I'm sure that it's no surprise that in last place we have Koopa Troopa Beach. SNES tracks don't typically make it very far in track rankings for the simple reason that they're flat and pretty uninteresting. Koopa Troopa Beach has an awesome summer vibe to it, from the beach setting to the banger music track. Its only crime is being kinda boring and lacking in obstacles or a varied layout. You know the game is good when the worst track in the game is just a bit boring. There isn't much else to say about Koopa Troopa Beach. It's fine, but it's a simple circle at the end of the day, and it wouldn't feel right placing it anywhere but last place in a game full of really stellar tracks. Desert Hills was certainly a choice. If Nintendo needed a good DS track, then Delfino Square and Boston Building were right there. If they needed a better desert track, then Dry Dry Ruins is still there waiting for a remake. I just don't know why they'd choose to remake one of the most boring Nitros from Mario Kart DS, and it's not much better here. In fact, I'm struggling to say it's the best version of this track. It's kinda taken all the soul out of the original if I'm being honest. I really like the Super Mario Bros. 3 references in the DS version with the angry sun and the fire snakes. I liked the hills and the pokies, and the overall aesthetic was more vibrant than it is in World. In the new version, there are some Super Mario Land references with the Toko Tokos and Batidons as course obstacles. This is neat since Mario Land doesn't get as much attention, but I don't know, man. Something about this remake just feels soulless in comparison to the original, and the original isn't even good. It's not terrible, the controls of World are so incredible that even the most drab and uninteresting tracks feel at least a bit fun to drive. And there are a few off-road shortcuts to take to spice up your racing, so it's not all bad. Mario Circuit is a track that tried something new. Instead of just bringing back Mario Circuit 3 for the 5th time, Nintendo combined all the SNES circuits. Sorry, did I say all? What I meant to say is all of them except for Mario Circuit 4, which Nintendo has a mysterious hatred towards for some reason.
What about me?
No, you're not in this episode.
Besides that, Mario Circuit is an okay track. About as okay as a flat SNES track can be. It's more engaging to have the 3 circuits combined since it gives the layout a bit more variation, but I use the word engaging lightly because this track is still pretty boring to me. When some of the tracks in this game have you grinding rails and speeding off walls, a flat SNES remake that lacks those cool features is just not gonna cut it. Oh good, they brought back Moo Moo Meadows again. I've never been a huge fan of this track. I get that they have Cow as a playable character in this game, so they had to bring back Meadows as a result. But I don't know, man, I'm tired of this track. And it doesn't help that this is such a popular choice online, just like how it was in 8. It also just doesn't look as good here as it does in Mario Kart 8, which feels crazy to say because for the most part, Mario Kart World has very stunning visuals. The track feels wider and less twisty than it was in 8 as well, but I guess that part can be explained by the larger player count. It's a sweet little track with cute music and all, but it's just not ever my first choice when I'm looking for a track to play. With great disappointment, I have to say that Starview Peak finishes off the D tier, and it is in fact not Peak. As a huge Mario Galaxy fan, I had really high hopes for this track when I first saw its reveal. But when I sat down to play it for the first time after I finished the race, I kinda just thought, that was it. The layout is nothing special at all. If anything, it's just kind of a ripoff of Ice Ice Outpost, another mediocre track that also has dual paths that are coincidentally the same colors in both tracks. I will say the track and surrounding area is gorgeous. As a whole, Mario Kart World delivered beautiful and impressive graphics, and you'll hear me say that a lot during this video. There are so many tracks later on the list that have those gorgeous visuals and a compelling layout and theme. Starview Peak only has one of those things. It doesn't even go all in with the Comet Observatory theming. I also don't really find the water section all that fun to drive. It feels slow and unsatisfying, and there are no obstacles to avoid, other than other players' items, I guess. But now we've arrived to the C tier, which is for solid tracks that could have done a bit more to shine a bit brighter. None of them are bad, but they've all got something holding them back. The penultimate track of the game is next with Peach Stadium, the track that's supposed to test your skills before the final test. And it's just okay. For the second last track in the game, Peach Stadium is kind of lacking. It's nothing special, which is ironic considering what cup it's in. I can't exactly pinpoint what it is that I don't like about this track. There's just something off. It doesn't feel like a penultimate track for me. It feels just like a somewhat above average stadium track you'd find in like the Star Cup maybe. Or even the Flower Cup, honestly. It's just not doing it for me. Peach is not having a great showing because next is Peach Beach. This is a track I was hoping I'd like more, but it's just lacking. The first 2 laps are fine and good, but the 3rd lap is just boring water driving and totally drags down the rest of the track for me. The visuals are gorgeous and the music is great as always, but the layout is just alright and could have used a bit more, especially on the previously mentioned 3rd lap. Mario Kart World starter track is next, and it's a solid one. The music is super catchy and the Orange Desert theme is really unique and memorable compared to other circuits. Mario Bros. Circuit introduces rail riding in a simple and easy way to ease players into the mechanic that will continue to follow throughout the rest of the game's tracks. I have nothing bad to say about Mario Bros. Circuit, but it is just a simple starter track and it can't go much higher than this, especially considering the quality of other tracks in the game. I'm one of the few people who actually liked the original DK Pass on the DS. It's not a great track, but it's not as bad as some people say it is. And with the improved mechanics, controls, and graphics of World, DK Pass has been brought to life in this remake. It's still the sweet and simple track I always liked, except with added shortcuts like this cool pull cut here. I also really like the new ski lodge aesthetic, even if it kinda makes it seem like even more of a DK Summit Jr., considering the whole ski lodge vibe was kinda Summit's thing first. If I had a nickel for every DK-themed ski resort track, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? I'm also kinda sad about the removal of the snowman at the end of the track, because I always found them to be one of the most iconic things about DK Pass. I feel like, especially with the snowman model literally in the game, it wouldn't have been much of a hassle to add them in, and it would have made the track just a bit better. Finishing off the C tier is the last of the tracks in the I Expected Better From You squad, with Faraway Oasis. Just like Starview Peak, I was really excited to see this track for the first time, but it just wasn't as incredible as I wanted it to be. Don't get me wrong, it's still great, it's a fun track with really catchy music, a wild aesthetic, and a fine layout, but I just wish the animals were more part of the track. There are tons of them in the intermissions leading up to Faraway Oasis, and even some on the outskirts of the track itself. But imagine if there were actually ostriches running alongside the racers, or a giraffe's neck you had to drive up or something. I don't know, just something to make this track a bit more unique. But with that, we move on to the B tier. The B tier is full of great tracks that do a lot of things really well. Most of the tracks in this tier are just being held back by like 1 or 2 smaller things. And the first of those tracks is Crown City. We all know the sheer amount of city tracks in the 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. I'm not the biggest hater of those tracks, but I will admit I've gotten pretty tired of the overall city theme. Crown City is the newest addition to the city theme tracks, and it's a serviceable one at that. The layout isn't too special or memorable, and there's a few places where the road is just very straight with nothing to do. I wish this track involved more driving on the roofs or even through the buildings themselves. My favorite part of Crown City is when we're riding on the panels and roads in the sky, and I wish there could have been more of that. Imagine if we could take a trip through a store or a restaurant or race on the roofs and glide through the sky. Where this track really shines is in free roam, where you have a chance to slow down and really take in all the details that litter this track. It truly feels like a real lived-in city, with all the cars on the roads, the Toads and Yoshis who roam the sidewalks, and all the establishments and advertisements you come across. If I had to choose a Mario Kart track to live in, Crown City would definitely be high on that list. Salty Salty Speedway is a gorgeous and unique city track inspired by the likes of Venice and Amsterdam. Its main attraction is the water canal, of which you spend most of the time racing in, but unfortunately this is also the thing that holds the track back for me. I think with time this track will grow on me, but for now the water driving just feels kinda slow and unsatisfying, just like it did on Starview Peak. Once I get more comfortable with the controls, I hope it'll be more enjoyable, but for now Salty Salty Speedway resides here in 19th place. I think the final little stretch to the finish line is also a bit lacking and could have had more to make it more engaging, but criticisms aside, this track is still good fun and looks beautiful all the while, with a lovely beach city theme and fitting music to go along. Out of all the tracks in Mario Kart World, Choco Mountain had me most conflicted for a little bit. When I first played it, I thought it was such a far cry from the original track that it may as well have just been a completely new one instead. It was as if they took Choco Mountain's music and name and slapped it onto a Nitro in disguise. But after some time and listening to other people's opinions on the track, I can say it's a good retro. It keeps Choco Mountain's layout, having that familiar road of twists and turns all the way through, but it tries something new by turning it into a sort of dirt bike stadium, ran by a bunch of charging chucks. The rolling boulders are still here, the music is still adventurous as ever. This is still Choco Mountain at its core. Besides, if you want a more OG Choco Mountain experience on the Switch 2, you can always boot up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and play the more faithful version in the Booster Course Pass. Donkey Kong has decided to leave his old life behind to pursue an engineering career, and he's built his very own spaceport complete with an entire rocket ship. DK Spaceport has such a unique aesthetic, with vibrant colors and a fairly simple but fun layout, complete with the star of the show, Robo DK, a giant robot who hurls barrels at you on the final lap. As a side note, Robo DK has a really neat design, and something inspired by him would have been great as a costume for DK. But Nintendo decided to be evil and give him one singular costume. Honestly, a crazy level of disrespect for the character who started it all for Mario. Speaking of starting it all, DK Spaceport is an awesome tribute to the original DK arcade game. Even the music is made up of delightful remixes of the arcade tunes, and it even changes up every lap, growing more intense as you go. This track is also the one that introduces wall riding, which is still really cool even if taking the wall is unfortunately slower here. DK Spaceport is just another banger in the growing collection of amazing Donkey Kong themed tracks, up there with the likes of DK Summit and DK Mountain. Next up is the Spooky Boo Cinema. It's absolute cinema! Let's start with the obvious. This is one of the coolest and most unique track themes in the series. Like, it's a haunted cinema where you literally drive through the movie screen and go into the movie, all while a bunch of boos watch. The visuals and music are also incredible, which is honestly crazy to say about a haunted track since I don't usually like those. I love how you drive on the film roll of the movie and how the music changes to a jazzier rendition when you enter the screen. The only thing that pains me about this track is the very simple layout. I wish that there was just a bit more to it, like a cooler movie scene or even just more of the theater. Just something a bit extra could send this track a long way. That being said, it's still super fun and a great new track. Sky High Sunday is one of the more hated tracks to come out of the BCP, but it's here in Mario Kart World for a second chance, and it sure succeeded at that. I've seen many other people say this, but yeah, Sky High Sunday was definitely made for Mario Kart World. We already know this game was in development for 8 years, so it's really not a stretch to say. The original Sky High Sunday just felt and looked so unfinished in 8 Deluxe, and the random railings that gave you an anti-grav boost really didn't make sense. But now in World, these boost rails have been turned into rideable rails that suit the track so much better. All the diverging paths have more of a purpose now that they're full of rideable walls and rails. Although the track is still a simple oval, it's been made much more engaging with all the new mechanics, and it's received a huge visual glow up as well. Now it actually looks edible and appetizing instead of like textureless Play-Doh. Acorn Heights is like if Maple Treeway and Wild Woods had a baby, and that's a big compliment. It seems like you can't go wrong with these big tree tracks in Mario Kart. And although Acorn Heights isn't my favorite of the bunch, it's still a great time. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this track, which keeps it from feeling repetitive and stale. You can take a slightly different route every lap, which is always a huge plus in any track. The vines are fun to ride and trick off of, and it seems like this would be an enjoyable track to master the mechanics on. Overall, a very strong opener for this game's Special Cup. I always thought Wario Shipyard was one of the most underrated nitros from Mario Kart 7. Its unique theming and Wario-inspired colors worked together to make a really charming track that was also fun to play. I was happy to see it return for a much-deserved console remake, and I think they did a great job adapting the track to Mario Kart World's new water driving. But I can't help but feel a bit sad about the overall loss of charm here. The track still looks good, and the intermission leading up to it in the Star Cup really adds to the spooky atmosphere. But the original Wario Shipyard just felt more Wario. The yellow and purple color scheme was unique, and you could even see minecarts full of gold on the track from Wario's Gold Mine. Such a cool touch that exuded even more personality. In comparison, the World remake feels lacking. It's still a great track, it just doesn't feel like Wario Shipyard. I'm not quite acclimated to the water mechanics in World yet, but I do like the feel of Wario Shipyard more than other areas with water. The water here is more violent due to the stormy setting, which allows for tricks to be done on the waves. Despite my criticisms, I'm really happy Wario Shipyard was given another chance to shine here, and I still do like this iteration for the new vibe it tried to display. But with that, we've reached the A tier, full of tracks that are phenomenal in several ways. They're all super enjoyable to race on and unique in their theming. Starting off the A tier is Cheep Cheep Falls, a beautiful autumn and Japanese-themed water track with intense and gorgeous music. Like seriously, what were they feeding the composers? The visuals and layout on this one are very strong, and I think that with time I'll start to enjoy this track even more. Like Salty Salty Speedway, this track has a lot of water to drive in. It makes up pretty much the entire track, which makes total sense given its name is Cheep Cheep Falls. It's one of the more technical and challenging tracks that requires knowledge and skill with how the water driving works in this game, and I haven't quite mastered that yet. But besides the sort of awkward water driving skill issue, this track has an engaging layout and feels really fast and tense. They did an incredible job with this one, and I can't wait to get better at it. The most unexpected retro narrowly misses the top 10 with N64 Wario Stadium, the final track from Mario Kart 64 to be remade, and this did not disappoint. We all know the absolute tragedy that was the original Wario Stadium, a bland, drawn-out track that notoriously had no decorations except for the same PNG of Wario's face plastered on the wall over and over again. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that this track was coming back, I was confused and a bit scared it would be as lame as it was on the N64. But this is Mario Kart World we're talking about here. This track has been completely revamped with a super fun layout full of tricking. It's like what Excite Bike Arena tried to do, but 10 times better. I absolutely love the controls of World. I think they are the most fluid and comfortable of all the Mario Kart games, and the controls and mechanics really shine in Wario Stadium. I know that air tricking doesn't really do anything for you in terms of speed, but I cannot help but trick constantly on this track, because it's just so exhilarating. The whole thing has really high energy and feels like you're actually in a dirt racing stadium, with the crowd cheering in the background and the flames that go off as you ascend the final big boost ramp before the finish line. They even managed to remix the basic circuit music to fit the more intense stadium setting. I'm super happy with how they treated this track, and it really goes to show that even the weakest of courses can become standouts with a bit of Nintendo magic. Now, if only we could complete the Wario track trilogy with Mount Wario. Please, Nintendo. When I first played Dandelion Depths and saw that oh-so-familiar orange medal, it's Steam Gardens, guys! Steam Gardens from Super Mario Odyssey. I've been wanting a Steam Gardens-inspired track for the longest time, and it's finally been delivered. Super Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite video games of all time, so anything that references that is an immediate win in my eyes. Despite the admittedly simple layout of Dandelion Depths, I still find myself smiling the whole way through. Driving through the water is more fun here than it is on most other water tracks, since you're constantly dipping in and out of the water and can get some tricks off as a result. And it's yet another gorgeous track in a game full of visual stunners, with really catchy music as well. The only complaint I have is the very end of the track with all the boost panels uphill is kinda lacking. But all is forgiven because this track is literally Steam Gardens, and that's the coolest thing ever. Next up is the fan favorite Wii track, Toad's Factory. Despite literally growing up with a Wii, I never actually got to play Mario Kart Wii, and so this remake was my first exposure to the track. I've always heard nothing but praise for it, and now I finally understand why. Toad's Factory is one of the most unique themes in the series, being set in the very factory where the item boxes are made. Throughout the track, we get several glimpses at the process of item box making. My favorite part is seeing the little capsules with the items inside, and watching as they go on to get sorted into individual boxes. The course itself is also just simply fun to drive, and I especially love driving on the steel beams at the end of the track. Just a super solid track whose universal praise is totally warranted. I'm not gonna lie, when I played this track the first few times, I didn't think much of it. I watched several ranking videos where the poster praised this track to no end, and I just found myself sitting on the other side of the screen thinking it's not that good. But then I played it a few more times. I decided to sit down and fully immerse myself, put on my headphones, just play the track, and really truly give it every bit of my attention. And then it clicked. Mario Kart World's rendition of Rainbow Road is an absolutely breathtaking stunner. It is by far the most beautiful Rainbow Road and a contender for the most beautiful of any track. The entire thing is an emotional tribute to not only Rainbow Road but the Mario Kart series as a whole. It's a celebration of the franchise we all love so dearly. Throughout the entire track, there are nods to previous Rainbow Roads, like the Space Station section from 8, or the Thwomps from the original SNES version. This track is broken into several sections, each with their own gorgeous features. The water area is glistening and coated in a magnificent blue. The road is a glassy, multicolored beauty that is a real treat to the eyes the entire race. And the music is a masterfully created work of art that frames your journey and dynamically changes with each lap. The cherry on top is the train soaring through space, carrying several familiar faces from earlier tracks, like Robo DK and the dinosaurs from Dino Jungle. The last lap never fails to make me tear up with the swelling emotional music. The whole thing is a reminder of how far the series has come and how far you've come, and any track that incites emotions this strong is bound to place high on any ranking list. So why is it only at number 8? The simple answer is that this track is very long. It might even be the longest in the series if I'm not mistaken, up there with the original N64 Rainbow Road. Now, sure, the 5-minute runtime is packed with a gorgeous spectacle and equally incredible soundtrack, but the track itself lacks any real challenge or variation in driving. It's not challenging like Wii or Double Dash, and it's not a cohesive, connected journey like 7. I just think that with time, this track is going to grow a bit old. Right now, it's beloved because we've only been playing it for over a month now, but in a few years, I don't know how well it'll hold up. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad track. Not at all. I would hope that my praise towards it was clear enough to make it known that I love this track, and I understand why other people like it more than I do. It's just that the length and lack of very interesting driving is a big weakness that holds it back from placing any higher for me. I hope you guys understand. Please don't kill me in the comment section. Coincidentally, the other staple track from the Mario Kart franchise is next with World's version of Bowser Castle. I've actually never been a huge fan of the Bowser Castle tracks, but World's rendition absolutely blew me away the first time I played it. With super intense music and stress-inducing twists, lava, and fireballs, this track is an absolute treat every time I play it. There's also all kinds of insane shortcuts on this track, most of which I'm not good enough to get yet, but one day I'll manage to do them consistently. Another thing I really like about this track is how you can actually save yourself from the lava if you happen to drive into it. If you have a mushroom or a star on hand, you can get out before you burn to a crisp, which even allows for some cool little shortcuts at some points on the track. The whole race is just really exciting and feels super fast and tense. It has a more unique identity than most of the other Bowser Castles in the series, which helps it stand out. Overall, a very strong showing of the menacing and fast-paced fun that Bowser Castle tracks should always offer. This is the last DS track that Nintendo chose to include. Not Delfino Square, or Luigi's Mansion, or Rainbow Road, or Airship Fortress. Well, I'll just say I'm so glad Airship Fortress wasn't in the Booster Course Pass, because if it was, we wouldn't have gotten this killer remake. My biggest issue with the original Airship Fortress was the lack of shortcuts or alternate ways of driving. It's still pretty simple in world, but grind rails have been added for a new way to play the first part of the track. Something about this specific sequence is just so fun every time, and I think that although it's a small change, it really improves the overall track. This is the first time we've seen Airship Fort in HD, and wow, it did not disappoint. When I played the Flower Cup for the first time and saw Airship Fortress approaching after the intermission, my jaw was on the floor. It's such a gorgeous visual to accompany one of the most iconic Mario Kart tracks. All that being said, you'll notice Airship Fort just barely missed the S tier. Half the reason for that is just because of the sheer amount of high-quality tracks it had to compete with. And the other half of the reason is the spiral at the end of the track. The spiral tower has been the worst part of Airship Fortress throughout all of its iterations, and it's back in World as well. It could have been improved with an alternate grind rail path or anything to give it a bit more spice. I also don't really like the music remix here. I wish it had more of an intense metal vibe to it instead. But when all is said and done, this is still Airship Fortress and still one of my absolute favorite tracks of all time. And the top of A tier is nothing to be ashamed of. But now we've reached the peak. My personal top 5 favorite tracks in Mario Kart World. Honestly, this game is so packed full of quality that more tracks realistically could have been placed up here too. But I just wanted to reserve it for the absolute best of the best. So without further ado, let's get to the top 5. Whistlestop Summit is an absolute instant classic. It was love at first play with this track, and I only continued to love it more as I replayed it over and over. The music is infectious, and the layout is top-notch, complete with diverging paths and plenty of rails and train tracks to ride. And of course we can't forget the centerpiece, the train! I can't exactly pinpoint what it is that I love so much about this track. The whole thing is just so joy-inducing. It's actually a pretty simple track, being in the Mushroom Cup and all, but there's just something so lovable about the fast-paced, rail-riding, lane-switching track that is Whistlestop Summit. Also, it's Whistlestop Summit. I've already seen some people call it Whistletop Summit. Guys, don't let this be another Electrodrome situation. Yet another Mario Kart 7 Retro hit it out of the park in Mario Kart World. Shy Guy Bazaar was already a really great track on the 3DS, but Nintendo turned up the dial 100 times for this remake. I was originally disappointed to see that this track would be set during the day, since I always liked the nighttime setting of the original. But this decision actually made the track even better, allowing it to really exude a bustling and lively bazaar feeling. Speaking of, I absolutely adore how the Shy Guy vendors sell different types of dash food at their stalls in free roam. It's such a cute little detail that really builds upon the world and totally fits the whole bazaar theme. And the track, once again, is visually gorgeous. They even took Shy Guy Bazaar a step further by adding an alternate route through Daisy's Palace, which you can access through Versus mode by traveling from Airship Fortress. It was a totally unexpected but super welcome inclusion to this already incredible track, and is one of the many Mario references littered all over this game. This is all without even mentioning the layout, which on its own is simple and fun, but when you consider all the rails and roofs you can ride on, it becomes even better. Shy Guy Bazaar does an incredible job at showcasing how many different techniques can be used on the tracks of Mario Kart World. Just like Wario Shipyard, I'm really happy this track has another shot in the spotlight. I'm one of the 4 Mario Kart 7 fans that exist, so it just puts a smile on my face seeing some of its strongest nitros on full display here in Mario Kart World. Drybone's Burnout is a well-deserved redemption track for one of the coolest Mario characters. After the absolute insult that was Bone Dry Dunes in 8 Deluxe, it's nice to see an incredible Drybones track in World. The theme and aesthetic for this track is just amazing. I sound like a broken record saying this, but this is another visually stunning track with so much to keep your eyes entertained. I especially love the Drybones that has the blue lanterns as the eyes. It just looks so insanely cool. The layout of this track is also one of the strongest in the game, with tons of diverging paths to spice up your route each lap. This is a simple way to make a track timeless and prevent it from growing stale. You can't be bored on this track. There are seriously so many paths for you to drive on that you can drive a totally different combination of paths in every race you do. It's also on the more challenging side, which keeps the race engaging the whole way through, if it wasn't already engaging enough with the amount of choice you're given. Just like in Bowser's Castle, you can boost your way through the lava here, leaving even more room for shortcuts and techniques. Drybone's Burnout is one of the elites, a true showcase of the mechanics, visuals, and sheer creativity of Mario Kart World. The silver medal is awarded to the adventurous and fantastical Great Question Block Ruins, which, despite having a really weirdly written name, is an instant classic track. This seems to be a fan favorite already, and I've seen many people say this is the best in the game, and I can 100% understand why. This track gets selected online a lot, and I am more than okay with that. The layout of this track is really great, and there are plenty of shortcuts to be found, including one of the coolest ones in the game with the iconic cloud cut at the end, which is so much fun even if I don't do it right half the time. This track kind of reminds me of Cloud Top Cruise, with how it's set up in the sky and has a similar grand feeling to it, and that is a great track to be reminded of since it's one of my favorites from 8 Deluxe. But with that, only one track remains. I don't know how they managed to do it, but Nintendo has taken an all-time favorite of mine and made it even better. This track has me smiling like an idiot every time I play it. Dino Jungle has been turned into a Jurassic Park-esque research lab, which is probably the coolest thing they've ever done with a retro course. Are you kidding me? That is such a perfect, natural evolution to this track that gave it an even more unique identity than it already had. The biggest complaint that I and many others had with Dino Jungle is the lack of actual dinosaurs. But Mario Kart World has remedied that by adding so many dinos. Many of them have even become directly part of the track, being able to be used as ramps to ride and trick off of. And the T-Rex that breaks free and runs around the track is so incredibly sick and adds a bucket full of charm to this track that I did not even know it needed. The composers also absolutely crushed it with the music remix. The Dino/DK Mountain theme was never one I was super big into, but holy, they really made it sound incredible here. The new instruments give it a way more epic feel that totally fits the more chaotic track design. This is a prime example of a retro track done right. The original layout and idea is still intact whilst adding something new to give it a fresh coat of paint. The new aesthetic makes thematic sense and only builds upon the original dinosaur theme. I don't care that there are objectively better designed tracks in the game, I absolutely adore this track to death, and it is perfect in my eyes. With the sheer quality of tracks in Mario Kart World, and the large possibility of new tracks being added down the line, this list is bound to change with time. But for now, this is generally how I feel about the tracks after over a month of playing around with them. I really enjoy the tracks in this game, and I'd love to hear all of your opinions in the comments. Because with how good the selection is, it's not too crazy to say that any of the tracks could be someone's favorite. All that being said, thanks so much for watching, and have a great day or night. And I'm sorry for disappearing for so long.